Crypto Talk with Brianna and Scott, where we are living the decentralized life. Join us for the latest crypto news, talk, and analysis. And now, here are J. Scott McMillan and Brianna Turk.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. Do you guys like our new intro, Mr. AI Robot there? I'm Scott. This is Brianna. Hi, Brianna. How you doing?
Hey, Scott. I'll answer that question. That was my first time seeing that intro. I loved it. I'm all about it. Scott's just really good with all the techie stuff. And AI Robot, I thought that was you speaking. Was that not you?
That was not me. That was just pure AI. I'm going to probably try a couple more with my voice, having it copy my voice. But the one I've been trying a few different ones of these, and this is just voice, AI voice. You type in and it'll say whatever you want it to. That was called 11 Labs. 11 Labs is really good at that. And the voice sounds really good. There are a bunch of them now that do it. And that's one of their basic ones. The first one I tried, I was like, I love British accents. I'm like, okay, I want a British accent to do it. And the problem was it was too dull. It was kind of like, it was slow. It sounded great, but it was too slow. So this one, and you can play with the settings a little bit to get it to animate a little bit more. And the trick of it, I find, is to get the AI to pause when you want it to, because it'll just kind of read things on. And so there's little settings. Sometimes you can put commas and dashes. And the weird thing is, if you've ever played with these AI programs, they're all a little different, and they don't behave the same. So I don't know. Yeah. So that was that. So how you doing?
I'm great.
What's going on?
I'm really great. I am going to talk a little bit about today, just a brief breakdown of the role of Bitcoin versus government, some basic common questions and answers. Can Bitcoin be shut down? Can it be banned? These are common questions I know that you run into all the time, and I think everyone will continue to come into. So kind of going in depth in some answers there. Also, Nike had a release of NFTs recently, their Air Force Ones sneakers release. And those sneakers will eventually be able to be used in games. I was just diving really deep into this for some reason yesterday. And I just thought it was interesting as these big companies start to roll into Web3. And I took some screenshots of Dot Swoosh, Nike's Web3 platform. So we'll kind of take a look at that and talk about their launch. How are you? And what do you have today?
Yeah, I'm good. I am doing great. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a slow crypto week again, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm gonna show a video of Brian Armstrong talking about moving America forward is one of their slogans. I've got some, as of I think it was yesterday, I didn't have that many news articles, so I just started writing some things. So I've just some ideas and thoughts that I had that I'm gonna talk about, and one of them being about the general state of crypto being boring and how I don't think it's boring at all, but a lot of people do. A little bit. I got a little story about Dogecoin and an investor who invested in Dogecoin, and then a little about Ledger and what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
All
right.
That's a big one.
Yeah. It's caught a lot of news. All right. So your screen is up. Go for it.
Okay, let's start with this one on my end. Can the government ban Bitcoin? I found this article, I don't know if I want to call it an article. I guess it's an article. But I found this website called International Man, and there were a lot of really good articles on here. I was reading a lot through them, but this one was very in depth. And like I said, especially when people are outwardly into crypto investors speaking about it, one common question is always, yeah, but can it just be shut down or can it just be banned? And it seems like a complicated answer, but this narrowed it down pretty simply. So, okay, I'll get to it. So first, let's talk about Bitcoin and kind of just a brief understanding of its role when it comes to the government's power. So Bitcoin threatens a significant source of the government's power, the power to create. Of course, this is someone's opinion, fake money out of thin air and force everyone to use it. That's because Bitcoin can give monetary sovereignty to the individual and render central bank obsolete, along with their confetti currencies. It's a historical development that profoundly alters the status quo between the rulers and the ruled. It's similar to the invention of gunpowder, the printing press, and the internet. And I'm pointing this out because I think it's another common misconception when it comes to Bitcoin, as it not just being an investment. It's something that can be used to, could potentially, not saying that it ever will, but could be potentially a free way to exchange value, money. So this Austrian economist, Friedrich Hayek, says, I don't believe we shall ever have good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government. That is, we can't take it violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is by some sly roundabout way introduce something that they can't stop. So is Bitcoin that solution, is the question. Many people think the answer is no because the government will shut it down. That's a common misconception, but can anybody shut Bitcoin down? I put these into points, these statements. So the first one being that Bitcoin has no central authority and single point of failure. Number two, instead it runs on a decentralized, voluntary, and growing network scattered around the world on over 15,384 computers. Many of them are cleverly hidden in nearly 100 countries. Number three, with Bitcoin, there's no central location for a SWAT team to raid. There's no CEO to arrest. Governments can do nothing but play an endless and fruitless game of whack-a-mole across the globe. And number four, even if the US and Russia engaged in an all-out nuclear war, destroying most of the northern hemisphere, Bitcoin wouldn't miss a beat in the southern hemisphere. In short, no government can kill Bitcoin on its own. So that's when it comes to it being shut down. I guess there's a couple more points on what would it take to potentially shut down Bitcoin. And it says here to even have that chance that every government in the world would have to successfully coordinate simultaneously to shut down the entire internet everywhere and then keep it off forever. So even in that improbable scenario, it says that radio signals can still transmit the Bitcoin network, and small portable solar panels can power the network's computers. Further, satellites are constantly beaming the Bitcoin network down to Earth. In short, all aspects of Bitcoin are genuinely decentralized and robust and getting stronger every day, barring an inescapable global return to the Stone Age. Bitcoin appears unstoppable. And the cat is out of the bag. It says Bitcoin is bigger than any government. And so I'll move forward really quick too to about banning it, different than shutting it down. But before we do, Scott, do you have anything to add or want to comment when it comes to shutting down Bitcoin?
Nope, that covered it perfectly. I think this next part is going to be interesting, so carry on.
Okay, so if they can't shut it down, won't they ban it? Well, there's a number of countries here, China, Ecuador, Egypt, India, to name a few of this list, that have tried to ban Bitcoin, but they failed miserably as adoption in those countries kept rising. Could the US government try to outlaw Bitcoin? They haven't yet. The US president could issue an executive order banning Bitcoin, and they compare this to executive order of the outlawed gold in 1933, the executive order 6102, and until it was repealed 41 years later. But there's three reasons that they list here as to why that's unlikely for that to happen again. And their first reason is code is protected speech. Bitcoin is simply computer code, which is so brilliant, really, when you really think of that being an element of this invention. So U.S. federal courts have ruled computer code is equivalent to speech protected by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. On the other hand, the Constitution is not a reliable protector of rights, as the COVID hysteria, the war on terror, and war on drugs have all proven. So I wouldn't exclusively count on the U.S. Constitution to protect Bitcoin. Nonetheless, the previous precedents ruling code as equivalent to protected speech complicates any attempts to ban it. Reason number two, Regulatory clarity already exists. The US government has defined Bitcoin as a commodity and as property. The IRS and SEC and CFTC and other federal agencies have given Bitcoin clear regulatory and tax frameworks. That's helped many large businesses, many large financial institutions get into Bitcoin. So reversing these guidelines would generate significant pushback and be challenging, but not impossible to implement. Finally, the last one, banning Bitcoin states here is impractical. Government bans may restrict something, but they cannot make something valuable and desired by many people go away by passing a law. And then they go on to compare this to how they did this, prohibited cannabis over the decades. They did it with alcohol for a while. However, these laws have little effect on their citizens' desire and ability to use them. Instead, these actions create a thriving black market, or more accurately, a free market. So trying to enforce a prohibition on something digital and borderless like Bitcoin is entirely impractical. Bitcoin would be far more challenging for governments to ban than US dollars or a plant. And so and this is just, we have to keep in mind that this is someone's viewpoint, but what their viewpoint is that Bitcoin has already reached escape velocity. In other words, it's too politically popular to outlaw, and every day it gets stronger as adoption grows. And it was kind of adding before this how many politicians are now backing Bitcoin. So the bottom line, when you put it all together, is you have an unstoppable, superior form of money conquering the world. I liked that statement.
Conquering.
Among any others, but
Yeah.
I read that kind of fast, but there was a lot there. Did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Not really. I mean, it was good. Let's see, now I'm hearing an echo. Yeah, it was fine. Everything in there, I would totally agree with. I think the more interesting question is, well, can they ban other parts of crypto? I think that most people, certainly in crypto, would agree with everything that was said there for the most part. But I think the more interesting question is, what can they ban, or what will they try to ban? What other parts of crypto? Because as amazing as Bitcoin is, and as much as I love it, I think there's a lot more to crypto than Bitcoin. And, that to me is where the exciting new innovation is coming. And so that's the question, is what will they ban? And I mean, to novices, they probably still ask that question about Bitcoin. But for anybody that's sort of been in crypto, I mean, pretty much agree that Bitcoin's not going anywhere. But where? So like staking is a really good example, I think, of a question that I have. And that is, staking is fundamental now to blockchains, not necessarily Bitcoin, but every other big blockchain. Not every other, but Ethereum and the whole Ethereum ecosystem, and basically the whole DeFi ecosystem. And staking is part of it. So I found it really interesting when the government, or they tried to sue Kraken, and they started talking about these staking as a services, I guess, that they shut down Kraken from doing that, right? And Kraken didn't fight it, and they just stopped doing it. And now they're going after Coinbase also, right? And I think that's going to be a really interesting fight to see what happens there, because I think they could shut down these staking as a services. So like for Coinbase and Kraken, these centralized exchanges. But, they can't shut down staking. And so people that stake 32 ETH in the Ethereum network and become validators and earn rewards, right? If you're a full validator node, I mean, I don't think they're even going to touch that or go after that. I think they're really looking at the retail side of investors who are just going to Coinbase and like, oh, I can earn 4% if I stake my ETH, right? And I think that they're after FTX and all those other banks or CFIs went under in last year. I think they're looking at that. But that brings up another interesting point about now liquid staking services like Lido and Rocket Pool. And now you've got this whole other service that has been created by these companies that are, as far as I know, completely decentralized. And the government can't really touch them, I don't think. I don't know. This is an interesting part of it. But like Lido and Rocket Pool are just smart contracts that you deposit your crypto in there. And I know Rocket Pool, I think Lido too, it's as simple as going to Uniswap or any swapping and swapping your ETH for RETH or LETH or whatever the Lido version is. That now token, that RETH, in the case of Rocket Pool, becomes a tradable token. And the price mirrors pretty much Ethereum. It's not exact, but you can trade RETH. And so if you can trade it, what that means for me as just a retail investor is that I can just swap it in and out. So if I need that money that I've got sitting in Rocket Pool, it's basically staking and I'm earning 4%, I need it, I just go swap my RETH for ETH. I mean, it couldn't be simpler. And it's the same thing with Lido. And so it's a great new awesome service. And Lido, by the way, has taken over. I mean, it's like, it has the most staked ETH in the network, and they are just booming. So I think it's a good coin to own. I think Lido's doing really well as a project if you want to invest in the coin, but also to do staking. So I don't know. That's sort of my first thought on this, is that staking and DeFi also, like, what is the government going to get in there and mess with? And I think the key issue I've been thinking about is they're trying to protect us retail investors. And, I don't really want their protection or need it, but, there is pressure because that's their job, to protect the average investor. And I think that the whole thing that's happening now, and this is just my opinion, is a response to them not being aware or protecting or figuring out the FTX fiasco before it crashed. I mean, I think there's a lot of egg on their face. I think it looks really bad that they didn't catch that they didn't do anything about it. And also all the other CeFi banks that, failed in 2002 that was blamed on crypto, but really had nothing to do with crypto, right? And nothing to do with crypto. It was simply these poor managed entities that were not fully on the blockchain, that were using crypto assets to invest in, and they just mismanaged it. No different than when Silicon Valley Bank or Silvergate Bank go in and borrow a ton of these loans, treasury loans, long-term treasury loans, and then they go upside down because they're not as worth as much anymore, and they go bankrupt. Bad decisions. It's no different. And so it was really unfortunate that crypto got blamed for a lot of that. And I think what's happening is the regulators are overreacting to that. And they're saying, okay, we're going to go and do all this stuff. And they're just not, there's no cohesive plan. The SEC looks like total buffoons, I think, the way they're handling crypto. If you like crypto or don't like crypto, I think even the people that aren't pro-crypto got to believe that the way SEC's handled this is just terrible. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I started to think about as you were talking, and how they would touch DeFi, and that kind of just leads me to the thought of central bank digital currencies, and that's not touched on here in this article. This article was written in November, but on ramps. So, it just makes me question if what would already be in DeFi that might not be able to be shut down. These are just my questions. May not be able to ever be shut down. Let's say it was banned, just for an example. Be able to exist there and be possibly staked or be able to do different things in DeFi. But maybe would there be a disconnect from being able to on ramp anything else into
Well,
DeFi?
probably not. But what I worry about is the on ramps, because if you can't on ramp into, if you can't get your money into DeFi, that's a potential problem. In fact, I've been looking into other ways besides Coinbase. I typically just go into Coinbase. By now I've been with them long enough that I can just, you know, pull out, money, and I can trade it immediately. I don't have to have any wait times or anything. So it's really simple for me to do. I also DCA into Coinbase. It's really simple. I just have them pull out $100 every week, and every month then I go in and manually move all of my Bitcoin and Ethereum off the exchange into my hot wallet. So I've kind of got I think it's a pretty simple system that protects me if Coinbase ever goes down, for the most part. It's just simple. And then once I get it into Coinbase, then I usually will take my Ethereum and transfer that over to my MetaMask wallet, which I then use in DeFi. So I've got a pretty smooth system going. But what if they shut down Coinbase or something like that? So I've been looking into, well, how else can I get my money into the DeFi? So MetaMask, you can connect to a credit card. So as long as they don't outlaw that as an on-ramp right now, MoonPay, MetaMask is trying to get more on-ramp. So MetaMask is kind of also centralized, decentralized. I don't really know. I think it's more of a business like Coinbase than a pure decentralized protocol, even though they are sort of the de facto decentralized wallet, if you will. And then what was the other thing? Uniswap now you can on-ramp in Uniswap, which is a totally decentralized protocol. So I think that's coming, and the whole wallet situation is getting better and better. I think a lot of people during this low time, the builders have been building wallet technology. Now, if I was a regulator, that's where I would go. I would go after, and I think they are. Some people are looking into that, because to me, that's the key thing. Is if you really wanted to shut down crypto or do your most damage to it or whatever, go after wallets, so that becomes really difficult to use. And now, that being said, so yeah, that's kind of my thought on that. And so once your money's in decentralized, once your money's in crypto, Bitcoin and or Ethereum or anything as long as you can get in there and transact, and I don't think there's anything the government can do about that. So I think that part is good. The question is well, right now in my mind, it's on-ramping and staking and what that's going to be, and then also banking. Like, crypto companies need to have a bank just like any other business does, and is that going to get harder and harder? And what's that going to do? We're already seeing part of this lull is the fact that crypto is slowing down. Transactions on the network are at an all-time low, especially in DeFi. And I think a lot of it is just everything is slow. The businesses don't have as much liquidity because they don't have as much banking, and so the money's not flowing quite there yet. But I'll just use this time to go into my basically buy crypto now, which is things are going to break here in a good way. It's going to break open once the Fed it's definitive they're going to raise rates or not or whatever. I think the markets are going to respond pretty good to that. The stock market's going to go up. The bond markets are going to be good. I think more capital will start to flow into the banking system. And as the economy, is either in a recession, I don't think we're going to be in a deep, bad recession. I think if it is, it's going to be mild. And as we're coming out of all of this, crypto is going to boom. It's like crypto's just waiting for the first little signal that it can boom. And it always traditionally has gone higher than the other markets when everything is booming, right? So that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's like, okay, when there's lots of liquidity and the economies are doing good, crypto being as volatile as it is, and it's going to go higher. The problem is it'll come down faster too. So it's an asset investing in. You got to be watching it. But for those who are in it and watching it, you can do really, really well. The other thing is the Bitcoin halving is coming up in 2024. So there's just everything is really bullish about Bitcoin for sure, which is good because as Bitcoin goes up, it pulls the whole market up. So the whole crypto market between now and 2025, somewhere it's going to be going up. And at some point, I think we're going to see parabolic, that's my opinion, parabolic moves. And typically after the halving, it's usually about 16 to 18 months before it booms. But it could be anywhere from 6 months after the halving to 18 months, typically from history. The other thing that you can just look at is any chart of Bitcoin since it's been around shows an up and then a down and then an up and a down, and every up is always higher than the last up, right? So this is really good news. This is a good time to be into crypto. One, we're in the down mark. Well, we know from history that when it does go up, it's going to go up higher than it did before. So it's on sale. I mean, I've been saying that a long, long time, but it still is. I mean, so it's a great time to be in crypto. It's also a great time if you're a retail investor like us to study and to practice, because when things start going crazy, there's going to be so much news. There's going to be so much excitement and euphoria and the news articles and people saying buy this and do this or whatever. You're going to just be flooded with information, and you just almost can't help it, especially if you've got money in the market and you're like, oh, should I buy some more now? Or should I buy this or should I buy this? And you're going to get so much information. It's going to be hard to focus and concentrate and to make calm trades, and investments. So one thing I'm telling anybody that I come across that's interested in crypto or has any crypto is make sure you're practicing right now. If you're an investor that doesn't move your crypto around very much, just make sure you've got that down. So that by the time things get hot and heavy, you can just go boom, 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 and you can put your crypto exactly where you want it with no hesitation. Get used to that and learn, practice. If you want to get into trading, right now is the time to really absorb how to become a trader. If you want to learn DeFi, then learn it, practice it now, because things are going to get hot and heavy, which is going to be great. I don't know when, but it's coming.
It is. I know. I'm almost like, you don't want it to end once it gets hot and heavy, and you don't feel like it ever is. Once things are just more in, you feel like it's just never going to stop. And yeah, it'll be good. And isn't it 4 years of those cycles? Is that right?
It's about 4 years, yeah.
About 4 years between every bull run, at least up to this point. So that would be 2025, correct?
Yeah, 2025 is the year, and it's just going to be interesting to see, as the halving comes up, which is in 2024. I don't know the exact date. I think it's April, but I'm not sure. What happens to the market? It'll probably start getting, bubbly. It'll start to bubble up kind of slowly, is my guess, and then it's just who knows when. I just think it's going to go up slowly. At that point, right now, I mean, it still could go down to 15. I wouldn't be that surprised. It's just weird right now. It's just sitting in this bearish sort of 26. It seems to me like under 30 feels bearish in a way, but it's fine. Like I said, it gives me time to DCA more, put more in there. I don't know if I mentioned this. I am like, my goal, I don't know if I can pull this off. I gotta find some money somewhere, but I want to have one Bitcoin before it gets crazy. I think it'd be so cool to be like, okay, I got one Bitcoin, so at 30,000, so I got 30,000 bucks, sitting there in crypto in one Bitcoin, and as that thing goes up, I can just say like, I have 30,000, I have 40,000, I have 50,000, I have $100,000 because I have one Bitcoin as it goes up. I just think that would be so cool instead of having to mess with the fractions or whatever, And that being said, I got to do it fast because every day, it could be going up. Right now, under 27,000, that's the cheapest I'm going to get my one Bitcoin.
Your one Bitcoin. And where would you, like now, and I know you're going to touch on this because you're going to hit on the ledger stuff. where would you store your one Bitcoin? Where is the one Bitcoin going to be? Where's the safest place?
Yeah, that's a good question because I have a little problem with Ledger right now. My Ledger. It's a good question. I don't know. At that point, I'm gonna have to get really serious. Right now, I put everything in a hot wallet. Um, it's all in a hot wallet on my computer. I feel pretty good about that. I feel like who's gonna hack my computer? I mean, really? I mean, how? I just really feel like hot wallets on my computer and my phone are, I feel good about that. Now, when I'm getting up to the $50,000, $100,000 range or whatever, I'm gonna want the absolute best thing I can get, the most safe that I can get. Will be some sort of cold wallet. I just don't know what it is. I want to buy. I think I'm on back order to get the stacks from Ledger. So if I have it by then, I would do that. But I'm not sure with this whole Ledger stuff. What's gonna happen with them. Although I think they'll be fine, actually. So I'll put it on a cold wallet. Not all of it, but that's the other thing too. I've been kind of using this time to get back to the basics and just make sure that I've got all my I's dotted, my T's crossed. And I went back the other day and I've started to, I probably have 4 or 5 different wallets. And so I found another place to keep my seed phrases. I'm just trying to kind of double down and make sure that I'm really aware of like where all my seed phrases are and have a backup plan for that. And what else? And then just getting really sort of organized, and diversified. That's the other thing too. A good crypto plan is not to have all your eggs in one basket, right? And so I am trading a little bit now, or I'm about to. So I'm going to have money on exchanges to trade. I'm going to talk a little bit about grid-bot trading today, which I've gotten back into. Those funds are on exchanges. So I need them. I want them to be in multiple exchanges, right? So I'm not diverse. I'm not just using one exchange. So that's part of the diversification. Having a reserve fund of some stable coin always ready to go in a hot wallet that I can move into the market if I need to for some reason, or if I lose some, or if there's a really good buy on something, I want a chunk of change in stablecoin. And then I want it working. And I've got it in DeFi. I've got I'm mulling over the new strategy on my Bitcoin and Ethereum. Instead of just sitting in my cold wallet doing nothing, moving some of that back onto exchanges and then putting that to work. So maybe staking, but more likely grid-bot trading and DeFi. So that's what I'm kind of doing now is I'm just trying to get all my ducks in a row so that and then also recording like, okay, where is this? Where is this? Where is this? And I just want to get organized and ready to go. Just like I was saying, I want to be ready. So when stuff starts hitting fan, I'm organized. I'm ready to go. I don't have to think. I don't have to panic. I know where I'm going because this time, and I got in just before the last big push. It was kind of in the middle. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing or anything, right? So I didn't know. I just was winging it, right? And then it was high, and I was still sort of buying. I'm buying Bitcoin up at 60,000, because I didn't really know any different. I'm like, hey, I'm in crypto. I better be buying Bitcoin, and other coins too. And then during that phase when it was still really good. And then as it's gone down, now I'm just, okay, I want to be ready for the next one. I want to be making some serious crypto coin. But so I've taken about 1.5 to 2 years to really learn. And I feel like I want to be in the position to really take advantage of it when the next bull run hits. So that's where I'm at.
I'm in the exact same boat, and I'm not as organized as you. I don't think I'll ever be. But I am in the exact same boat as far as like, where I was 2 years ago, not having any idea. At that point, I thought I had missed the boat on Bitcoin, and just going through it all, going through that bull run, and then being in this bear market for this amount of time, and knowing what that all looks like it only comes so often. You want to be ready when those bull runs hit. I'm just right there with you. I want to be on top of it this time. At least to know that I did my best, right? Like I did my best, no matter what the outcome is. Yeah,
that's right. We just do our best because there's crazy stuff's going to happen. Unexpected things are going to happen, and you just do the best you can at that point, and good and bad. Be ready to jump on the opportunities, and be ready to react to bad things or weird things that happen, in the market, and then hope that it doesn't, and just be able to make sort of solid, steady decisions, investing decisions. Let me pop over here and show you guys something, if that is all right. So one of the things that one of the very first things I got into was grid bot trading. And it was just one of those things. I just came across a guy who happened to be teaching this, was early in my sort of crypto career, and I just started, and I didn't know anything different really. And what this is that it uses a software. This one's called Bitscap, and it's an exchange basically, but it has bot trading, and this was before the whole AI thing. And this is simply setting up. You set up I'm going to try to see here. So what it does is that you put in BTC and ETH. Let's just say you can put any two pairs in there or whatever. And what it does is it just buys and sells every time. So on this chart, you can just see every time it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. It basically just buys and sells. And so this isn't a get rich fast scheme, but it's basically because it's all set up in advance, and it as it moves up, it sells. As it moves down, it buys. And you can, depending on how much you have in there. Originally, he wanted you to have like 4,000 in each of these, and have like 2 or 3 running. I just didn't have that much money, so I wasn't quite sure. Now he's come out with a different strategy. You can do it with less than 1,000 in one of these bots. And I thought, let me give this a try again. So what you do is you set up an exchange. Mine's in Kraken right now, and I have I have this one bot that I just set up, and it's a BTC USDC bot, and I've got 900. I think I started with $989 in there, and it's just basically sitting here waiting for what this guy calls the wiggle. And as BTC goes up and down, it's going to sell a little bit of BTC, buy some, sell some, buy some, and I never lose my principal, hardly ever in this thing. If it goes down, what happens is that you have these grids, and I think if I can show you this. I don't know if you can see, but all these little squares on here are basically little grid lines that anytime the market moves up into one of these, it buys and then or sells. And in fact, let me see if I can go to the history. Maybe that is a way. Let's see, bot history.
So are you setting the price that you want it to be selling at, or does it just how does it know?
You can kind of set. That's interesting. I guess this isn't the transactions. What you do is let's see if I can go up here to settings. Let's see, strategy, grid. Let's see. No, that's so. Yes and no. Basically, you can come in and you just basically say, the price is right here. Whatever the price is, I just want to set it up so that I'm in a grid that if it goes down, I'm catching it, and if it goes up, I'm catching it. Basically, catching that wiggle. And you set a few parameters, like what's the high price. So the highest price in this one is at BTC is like 60,000, and at the low is like 14,000. So anywhere in between there that the market goes, it'll be buying and selling. So typically this is $500 to $300 to $500 a month that I could make on this, and it's just, in a way, it's like staking. It's like putting my BTC to work, and you don't have to watch it that much. Once you set it up, you don't have to watch it. It just does its thing, and then every once in a while, if it the market price goes down, and let's say it dropped below 14,000, I'd be out of the grid, and it would just be sitting there. I wouldn't be losing anything, but it wouldn't be earning me any money. So then what you can do is think about the market, and you can regrid it, and so now I could move it down, and because the cool thing about crypto, it's always moving up and down. then I can start making more money. And it's kind of they call it payday. Every month he's like, go in there, pull out your payday, go put it in your checking account. So pull out your 500 to 1,000 or whatever you've got in there. So it's just something I thought I would bring up that's kind of cool. It's a different way I've kind of restarted to do that. So in thinking again through my big strategy is I may have a couple $1,000 maybe in one or two of these bots earning me. That would probably earn me like $100 a month maybe. If I had more in there, I know people that do this that make $1,000 a month, but they've got 10, 20,000 in these bots just working for them. You can do different coins. Like I'll probably do like Matic and USDC. I mean, you can do any coin against the stable. The ETH BTC one's interesting because they call that a hodl bot because basically you're buying and selling, but either coin is valuable. And so you're just kind of making money on the two coins and you're not losing any value. I did wonder, like, if I've got Bitcoin and I'm selling it, no matter what, I'm buying and selling and buying and selling. I was wondering if that devalues it, if like I should just hodl it and it'd be better. And you don't really ever lose your principal in this scenario. So it's not like I'm losing any value to my Bitcoin. It's just making me money. And it's just kind of an interesting strategy, to do. It's just another thing out there that is an option to do. And so then the other thing I'll do is I'll right now on ETH, mostly I'm hodling my Bitcoin. I'll probably put a couple thousand, in here. That means it's on exchange, so I gotta be careful. I gotta watch and make sure that things are going good. If the markets are looking weird or a government's thinking about cracking down, I may just shut these down and pull it out of there, because I am then the risk that I'm doing now because I want my crypto to work for me is I have to keep them on exchanges. So if you're trading or you're doing grid bots, your money got to be on exchange to have that work. So I have to deal with that. Other than that, in DeFi, a lot of it is still in my wallet, my hot wallet, even though I'm in a DeFi protocol. The only thing I have to worry about that is if the protocol itself gets hacked, then I could lose my crypto there. So again, it's all the sort of the theme of today's show for me anyways is about strategy and about preparing and about what am I doing and everything you need to kind of think about it. And that's the problem. When you first learn crypto, you're like, you don't know what to think about or how to think about it. And so after 2 years, I just want to get really smart about how I'm doing this and thinking about, okay, I'm going to take this risk about putting on exchanges, but I'm going to be earning money instead of just sitting in my cold wallet. And then in DeFi, I'm going to be earning 20, 30% on my whatever ETH or stablecoin or whatever coins I have, but they could get hacked. So I got to watch which ones I put into. What's the other thing? And then it's just hodling. How much do I hodl in? Like I said, right now it's in a hot wallet, and I am not really even using a cold wallet. But as it gets up there, I'm going to want to definitely add that to my strategy.
So when you are you sending the crypto from like a centralized exchange over to that bot trading? Is that how you get it over there?
I bought it on a Coinbase and I sent it over to Kraken, which is a centralized exchange, which I have to KYC and the whole 9 yards. I could just connect my bank account to Kraken, and I may do that in the future, but I haven't. Right now, Coinbase is my entry point for everything, and I just sent it over to Kraken. So yeah, and so the cool thing is that this software called Bitscap, all it does is connect to my exchange, and it basically sets up buy and sell orders on Kraken for me. It's just sort of like an automation software. Mm-hmm. So everything still lives on my exchange. Everything is in Kraken. And so whenever I stop the bot, wherever my money is in Kraken, however much it just sits there and that it freezes at that point. If I want to take it out, what I would do now is I'll transfer it. I'll just send it over to my Coinbase and put it in my checking account or put it in a stable coin, put it in my hot wallet or whatever. And it uses multiple ones. So again, I'll probably set up 2 or 3 bots. I'll probably have Binance or Kraken and I think KuCoin. because it works with 2 or 3 different exchanges.
Huh. The fact that it's from Kraken actually makes me feel even better about it than sending it like fully off. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it's called, and there's lots of programs that do it. This is called grid trading or bot trading, typically what it's called. Mm-hmm. All right. Where does that leave us? What else do you got?
Well, I know we're getting somewhat low. I would go over to mine, but I would really like to get to the one of yours on Ledger. Do you want to hop to that one? Or
sure. Yeah.
I could go over to mine. If we have time, we can go to mine, but I'm really curious and want to touch on the Ledger stuff. I think that's important.
Okay. All right, so this is the chairman of Ledger. So, okay, so a couple of weeks ago, this is what I know about it just in general. A couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, maybe even, Ledger came out and they said, we're creating a new feature, I think that's what they call it, called Ledger Recover, which would allow their support desk or somebody at Ledger to access the seed phrases. If you lost them or you couldn't get into your ledger, there would be a sort of a backdoor way that they could retrieve your seed phrases. There's probably a lot of detail in it, but that's basically what it was. They came out and they announced this, and there was another part of it because people said, "Oh, well, wait, what does that mean? Is my ledger secure?" And they said, "No, it's still secure, but really." This option has always been available. Like it's always been out there. Like it's not been out in the public, but it's no. Let me back up. Then what they said was, and because we have your seed phrases, if the government compelled us to turn those over, we'd have to. That was a big uproar. So there were 2 things. One, they were going to introduce this recover situation, and it was confusing and people didn't understand it. They're like, oh, well, how does that mean? If somebody, we can go to you to recover them, that means it's not quite as safe as I thought it was. And then during sort of the free-for-all of them trying to cover their butts, they then mentioned something to the fact that, they've always had the ability to see your free seed phrases, and they would have to give them over to the government if the government compelled them to do so. And that was a big uproar.
It's totally crazy to me. I know they said it's an opt-in service.
Yeah.
Like that you don't have to, you're not required, but we are all under the impression here. I mean, we have people like digging through landfills, right? Like, I mean, and they're just these seed phrases. We're all under the impression here. And was that a false impression that we're all under that that there's no way to recover those seed phrases? That's where I get lost, because is it just something that we have all said, like, oh yeah, you can't, it's not recoverable? Ledger, I feel like, has had that, and it says it when you're setting it up, like, store these in a safe place, you can't recover it. So it's very shocking, and it's one of those things. I think a lot of
it is just the confusion, the fear, the FUD, and the fact they didn't explain it well. I don't think even today that we know. I don't know for sure really what the story is. It's still confusing. And I think that that's probably the case in a lot of things in crypto. I think we'd all be shocked if we really knew how centralized Ethereum is. It's supposed to be this, decentralized network. There's a lot of centralized parts of Ethereum that could kill it. If this one part of it, it's not supposed to ever be able to be killed, because if it's truly decentralized, it's always, but there are parts that are very centralized. And so when I learned that, about a year ago, and again, I don't even pretend to know really all the detail and all the technical side of it, but I've read enough now to know there are certain little pockets there, because there's a whole lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes in crypto that, unless you're a coder or you've created blockchains yourself, we have no idea what the hell's going on back there. Right? And so we kind of just take it on faith that, the people we're listening to are telling us the truth, that we understand it enough. But there's always this programmers, if they can't tell us everything, we would just get lost, right? They have to be able to explain it to where the average person can understand it, right? And I think sometimes things do get lost in that translation. I think this is one of those things. And so I don't really know if they've always been able to access or have our seed phrases. Even if they had, if the thing was, we can never get to those, or we're not going to give them out, or whatever. It's like that enough is pretty good. I don't know what they said originally, like these seed phrases go away and they're non-existent. I mean, I think I always had to believe that they're stored somewhere. It's like they're somewhere. They're hopefully really hard to access, and they're encrypted, and no one can just find them, and they can't be connected back to my ledger. I felt pretty good about that, but the fact that they're out there somewhere doesn't surprise me. But on the recover side of it, the ledger recover program, the way I understood it was actually a new. I think it was a firmware upgrade that you could opt into, right? And then you would download that firmware into your ledger, and now it would have that option that if you lost them, you could somehow then get them to be recovered. I don't think the process was that easy. I think there were still multiple hoops you had to go through. I don't think it's as simple as you just call up customer support and say, hey, I lost my seed phrases, and they send them to you. Mm-hmm. I think it was much more complicated than that. And I feel that was part of what people blew out of proportion was, it's not like it's going to be so simple. It's just people took it to the extreme, I think, in my opinion. And the other thing was, so I think as somebody that I'm locked out of my ledger, it's funny. I don't know what the word is because I have my seed phrases. I've used them before and now they don't work. So something has gone wrong. And it could be that I'm blind and I can't see the damn little numbers. I don't know. I've tried it. I've kind of given up. From what I can tell, because the Ledger Live software is software that connects to it, that I can still see on my computer, and it says I've got like $200 of Bitcoin in there. I didn't know. I was thinking it was a lot more. So right now I'm locked out of, I think, $200 of Bitcoin, which, it's not great. So for me, I'm like, hey, I was glad when I saw this. I thought, oh, awesome. I can use this to unlock my crypto. I didn't know how to do it or what was going to be. I also don't know, even to this day, since my issue is before this, could I now go back and still recover my keys? I don't know. I don't know if I had to opt into it first, and then if I lost my keys or whatever, I could get it. So I'm still going to explore this and see if this will work for me. They said they backtracked and said they were going to not roll it out. But what this says, I'll go ahead and read through this, and you can continue to ask questions if you have it. But it says, they apologize for, communicating it terribly, which they did. Total disaster of the way they communicated it. It says the majority of users in crypto today either don't own their private keys and or are putting their private keys at risk by using less secure forms of self-custody and hard-to-use forms of storing and securing their seed phrases. They're explaining why they wanted to come out with this program. I think it's a great idea. If you're a newbie, you want something like this. And as an educator, when I introduce newbies to crypto, I want them to know about this. So I thought it was a good thing. They just handled it really bad. So basically,
okay, wait,
they said
right there. Can you scroll up for just one quick second, like right up just a tiny bit? Okay, right there. So it says Ledger never compromises on security. Is the only certified hardware wallet selected by Consumer Reports as the best hardware wallet and reinforced by security experts. Almost a decade of experience securing your private keys that govern your assets with uncompromising quality and improvements. So it says we have almost a decade of experience securing your private keys. So yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wonder what that means. But yeah, there's just a lot of questions.
It is, but to me, this is the thing. Nothing in that wording tells me that the keys don't exist anywhere or that you can never get to them. It says that we are securing them. Well, that's what banks say. We're securing your assets in this bank. Well, that doesn't mean that they can't get robbed. It doesn't mean that they can't get hacked or whatever necessarily. Now, I think with the encryption here and the security and that they are the longest in the business, I still trust that. I don't think anything has changed. I think it was all in the wording. It got all these questions and they didn't handle the answers very well. And now they're trying to clean that up. And to me, that statement, there's nothing different in that. That's what they've been saying all along. And to go back, my understanding of this is that just because they're now saying that we could help you recover them if you lost them or something happened to them, in my mind, doesn't mean that they're not securing them anymore. It just means that now there's an option. And I don't know why, and I think that hardcores just take everything so literally, and I'm not like that. So maybe it's easier for me to deal with this because I'm just like, well, they never said that the keys could never be recovered. I don't think they ever said that. I just think that they said they're secure. Doesn't mean that if given the right situation, and I personally think you should have this option, if you go through hoops and you do it in a organized fashion, you should be able to recover them. And yeah, I pity the poor people. And like me, I've been locked out of mine for almost a year now. So maybe that's the other reason why I'm like more sympathetic to this. But I still trust them and don't think they've done anything wrong other than being stupid the way they communicated it. So what's next? Says this part I didn't quite understand, but they made a big deal out of being open source software. And I suppose if you're a coder, maybe some people had problems with that, saying, well, if it's open source, then it's easy to access. But again, they're not gonna put the seed phrases up on the internet for anyone to grab. If they did that, then we'd have a problem. I mean, there have been other companies that have done that have put seed phrases in that somehow they got into a file. Like, so if you were interacting with a crypto DeFi protocol somewhere, somehow that information is encrypted and encoded somewhere, so no one can read it, no one can understand it. Somehow some of that got unencoded and then put on a text file. And I can't remember if it was seed phrases or passwords or what, but it was one of these third-party apps that was created that did, and I think it might even have been a bridge or something. And I was so pissed at them because that should have never happened. Where, private, I think they were seed phrases. They were just in a text file left up on a server on the internet. I mean, that's not what's happening at all here with Ledger. And the fact is now they're saying they're going to spin it off into a new program. Says, we're doing this to move forward to bring together security and self-custody to the next wave of crypto users. I, for one, think that's a good thing. If you want additional security measures enabled, well, this gets confusing. Then it says, we've listened to our customers and we're accelerating a roadmap that has been in progress, and regardless, the security of your ledger remains unchanged. Okay, got to take them for their word. The security remains unchanged. I believe that. Remember, we are doing this for more transparency going forward. This does not change the security of your device. If you want additional security measures enabled to prevent unauthorized access to your funds, you can enable the passphrase feature, which is not included in the Ledger Recover backup and can be fully trustless feature. Now, I read that to say that if you opt in to the recovery backup system, if at some time you decide, I don't want that ever to be recoverable, then you can opt in, and I think they make that somehow available to you. So I think everything is fine here.
Yeah, I think my thoughts, I mean, if I was going to dive deeper into this on my own time, which I don't know if I'll set apart time to do so, my questions, I guess, would be what was on the original Ledger stuff previously? Like, what did it say? And then the same question is, was that capability there then? Is where it is now, that opt-in? And then I think, like you said, the way that they brought this out was really stupid, especially during these times. And people do jump on. There's always going to be people jumping on things like
Right.
that. But
Yeah.
people jump on things. People just it's a reflection of the of just people's skepticism now when it comes to anything, and it's unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. And it happened with UST, and it happened with or Terra Luna, and it happened with FTX, and people are just kind of scarred, freshly scarred, and very on edge. And I think that it's a reflection of that, and it's so unfortunate because before that, the community was like, I mean, there's always going to be things, but was very whole and based upon, it seemed like it was all just very encouraging and uplifting. And then following that last year, it really broke things apart and made people really on the edge of their seat with everything. So I think we're going to see that. There's always going to be that like attacking going on. And I saw it too with, I'm not going to bring it forward at this time, but the Nike rollout, the Air Force One rollout, they did. I don't know why I got so into this. I love Nike. But it wasn't as seamless as a rollout as they were hoping for. And this whole article was how upset people were and how it took forever and all these things. And like, to me, it's just like, okay, come on, people, like, can you not just be happy about your NFT? Like, it might take a little bit of time to get to you. Like, there might be some hiccups on the way. This is all new technology. Like, can you just have a little bit of grace with it? I don't know. That's what I would tell my kids, I guess. So that's
Sure.
just where I'm at with that. I'm like, hey, can you not just be grateful and like just stop being like
Yeah.
expecting everything to be handed to you on a silver platter? Like, that was my thought reading it. There's always those people with it, but it's also really cool to see, and I'm totally going over to this now, but that Nike Web3 platform and their boxes that they're unleashing with their NFTs and just the experience that they're providing with that. When you purchase that NFT, you can open up a box, or you can leave it closed. But the whole way that it's rolled out is an experience, and then you have the community you get to be a part of designing and decision making, and it's just really cool. And then you get to wear those NFTs in games in the future, and it's just next level when you look at that dot swoosh Web3 platform, and it's where everything's heading. And it's all happening behind the scenes, even in these lows. I know you said too before, some people are saying that, I don't know, this might have been before the show, when people say that crypto's boring or we're going through the boring part. Like, it's never boring. There's huge things happening, and everybody, all the big companies are making their way into Web3. Like, and if they don't, you know, they will be eventually. They're all going to be left in the dust. I'm just going off on my rant. I'm excited about Nike.
Well, I'm excited about NFTs. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, I also, as far as the Ledger thing goes, just to round that off, I have always really trusted Ledger, and I really like that company. And I think it's a good thing that they retracted that and listened. And I think that hopefully they're just more careful in the future, or maybe more, maybe they should have announced or like asked, hey, would people be interested in this feature being added? Like, just, but still, there's always going to be the people up in arms. But
Well, I think they did enough research, and I think ultimately, you know, as a whole, it's a good product. They should have just completely separated it, rolled it out as a brand new product. You know, left everything alone and said, hey, here's a new thing we have that you can buy and opt into, completely separate from our other service. That's what they should have done. And maybe there's ways they couldn't really do that, like they had to integrate it somehow. It couldn't be completely separate. And so maybe they didn't think through the communication of this. Yeah, but I think it is a good thing. I think ultimately it'll wash out. I'm trying to think. There's been a couple other of these same sort of situations that, you know, came out and the company said something or introduced something, and this has happened before, and it caused. Oh, I think I was thinking maybe. Well, I was thinking about Arbitrum, and how I'm really bullish on Arbitrum and everything about Arbitrum, and they really botched what should have been a simple thing in their DAO. Right? They basically, it was after their airdrop, so they had all these new, people that were owners of their first token, and so their very first act as a DAO, and now you had tokens that you could vote on. They botched it. Did you hear? Do you remember about this?
Mm-mm.
Oh, this was interesting. So they basically put out, and this is what these DAOs are for, and as part of being a token owner, you now get to vote on the way that the protocol works, right? And this is part of decentralization. This is part of what pure crypto enthusiasts love about crypto, right? Is that it's not controlled by one person or one entity. So they put out the first vote and said, part of it we're gonna take some of these tokens and we're gonna put them over here in for maintenance or something like that. They were kind of just saying, here we're going to distribute the tokens here, here, and here. And when the people voted, they said, no, we don't like that. There was something I can't remember. We don't want coins to go to this thing. And they came back and said, oh, well, we've already done it. Like, we kind of already did it. And people were like, what? Why did we vote on it? Well, we thought this was just more procedural. It's like, this wasn't really a vote. And oh boy, did that get everybody up in arms. I mean, there are people that are like, I'm never going to touch Arbitrum again. I'm never going to, And again, it was just, they didn't think through this. It was like, this was a procedure that actually had to happen. But for some reason, somebody thought, oh, well, we'll just have them vote on it. And for them not to realize that if something was already done and you put a vote to it, that maybe it would go down, people wouldn't vote for it, and I don't think they even thought of that. Like, well, sure, they'll vote for it. So this happens all the time, and I think it's just one, internet culture, and then crypto is basically the internet culture on steroids. It's because now we're dealing with exclusively money for the most part, right? And anytime you're dealing with money, and you put that on top of all this social media craze, and you've got a pot of controversy just waiting to boil over. And so it is interesting, and I don't think you could ever win 100% of the time. People are going to make mistakes, and it's not like anybody lost any money here with Ledger thing. Again, and nobody lost any money with the Arbitrum thing. To me, the worst part of crypto are hacks, where people actually do lose a shit ton of money. And frankly, I don't see enough people up in arms about that. I think the crypto community should be way more up in arms about hacks than they are about any of this other stuff. I don't know. It's crazy. It's a crazy world.
It is a crazy world. We got internet, we got steroids, money, crypto, rights. We got rights involved with it all. Yeah.
We got regulation. We got government. We got, and at the end of the day, like we were saying, just, enjoy the fact that we have crypto, that we have a place where we can earn a decent interest rate, that we can control our assets in some way that we couldn't. Do we have to be grown-ups and figure out how to, work with our assets and protect our seed phrases and be almost or 100% responsible for our money? Yeah, we do. But hey, thank God we have that opportunity, because not everybody has that, and not every country has that. So we should be very thankful that crypto is here, that we're we're participants in it, right?
True that. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. You nailed it. Yep. I second everything you just said.
True that. All right, folks. Well, we're going to get on out of here. It's 11 after on my clock. So we'll have a great week. Hopefully, I say let's have another boring week. Let's all do some more DCA and some learning and some appreciating crypto. And until next week, we'll see you. Bye.